Hello and welcome to another LOTRO video with me, Balthelion, and today we are going to be covering the Bullroarer patch notes for update 22. So this is the first beta weekend that has been released with the new region that's going to be coming out later this spring. So this video we're just going to cover the first set of patch notes just to cover the big changes for what's coming. Obviously these are not final, there's going to be many other updates to the Bullroarer server before this goes live. Things will probably change in that. But if you're looking for actual gameplay about this, I will be doing some separate videos exploring the new region and showing some of the visual changes that will be coming in this update. So there's a dwarf visual update, there's some changes to Southern Mirkwood, some UI stuff on the character select, all of which is quite interesting stuff, but we're just going to be covering the patch notes today. So what you see in front of us is the patch notes. We're just going to go through it. I'll cover the main bits and ignore the chaff basically. So it says, visit the strongholds of the north, encounter the Elven King Thranduil, discover what is causing trouble in Dow, Lake Town in the Dowlands, and help the renewed Dwarven Kingdom of Erebor. So if you didn't know, we're going Northern Mirkwood. So it won't be covering the entire remaining mass of Mirkwood, but it's going to be like pretty much the northern borders. I think there might be a little bit in between that's kind of not really covered. But you know, basically the parts of Mirkwood that they went through in The Hobbit, most if not all of that. So we're going to have Thranduil and his elven halls. We're going to go through to the east side of Mirkwood. We're going to have you know, down Lake Town, and going all the way up to Erebor. So carrying on, so it goes: accomplish unique goals with new deeds and defend yourself against the scourges of these three kingdoms. This update includes over 125 new quests, which is probably about par for the course with a new region, like a mid-expansion region, which can be accessed by travelling to any hub in the strongholds of the north. Additionally, we have a new musical instrument to preview, the fiddle. So this is something they've been saying for a while now, and saying it's coming at some point. And to be fair, they did have been saying for a while it will be in the spring update, and it's coming with this. So that'll be something else I'll show you guys later as well. Note, the continuation of the Black Book of Mordor is not currently available on Bullroarer for preview. So there is going to be some more chapters to that, but we're not allowed to play through it. So I don't know whether that's just a case of it's not ready for testing, or whether it's the usual kind of thing with like Epic Quest and similar to Epic Quest stuff, where they just don't let us see it. So it's kind of a bit of a mystery until launch day. So we've got two region descriptions for what we're getting. So the first is Erin Lascalen, which is the name Mirkwood is no longer. The Wood Elves are reclaiming their forest with the name Wood of Green Leaves, but all is not cleansed yet. Trouble lurks in corners and mysteries confound the elves. Where have the spiders gone? Who would steal from the Raft Elves' goods? What else has long dwelled unseen within the woods? So basically we're doing some spring cleaning, quite literally, because it will be spring. And the second one is the Dowlands. Nearly 80 years have passed since a company of dwarves, a wizard and a very short burglar woke a dragon and Lake Town was set aflame. A new Lake Town has been built, Dow has been resettled, and the kingdom under the mountain thrives. But change has not lessened its pace. Mere days have passed since Yangavar Easterlings were repelled from Dow. So that is the plot line, if you haven't played through it, of the Erebor instance cluster. So when you're doing the raids for there, and you kind of like have free time periods. So like the 6-man instance where Dow gets evacuated, then the free raids are basically we're on the run to Erebor. The second one is they're trying to flush us out of Erebor with a siege machine, and the third one is we're running out to challenge their champions. But at that point, when you're challenging the champions, that's several days after the ring's been destroyed, which we've now been able to get to the point in the actual storyline where Frodo has destroyed the ring. So it's kind of catching up. So we're going there after the ring has been destroyed, obviously, since we've now done that in Mordor. Mere days have passed since the Easterlings were repelled from Dow. However, new Easterlings have arrived from Faerun, dressed in rags and telling tales of sorrow. So they've got some sort of refugee crisis from the east. So who knows what they're up to. So there's some known issues on the server as always. So that's nothing to do with what we're going to get in live. and some preview only patch notes. There are only placeholder maps on the Bullroarer server at the minute if you do decide to go in there and have a look around yourself. That is perfectly normal. We might see some finished maps in later beta builds, but sometimes it only comes out at launch. But there's some placeholder ones you can at least navigate around with. So we've got swift travel between all the various places. Now I have noticed that you can swift travel from Southern Mirkwood as well, at the very least from Ostgalad and Fanglehead. There's no direct connection that I've found yet, at least, that will connect North and South Mirkwood. But given that they're not touching each other region-wise, that's probably not surprising. But I imagine there's going to be various other places you can swift travel out of the new region back to the original landscape. Southbury is almost certainly going to be there because Southbury goes everywhere. So various areas in Southern Mirkwood have been updated with new trees, frills, rocks and textures, and an Orc camp in the Murkies was also modified. So this sounds pretty minor, but if you have a walk around Southern Mirkwood, it really does look like a completely different zone. So I might be doing an entire separate video on how different that looks. I don't know whether it's necessarily for the better or for the worse. The graphics look better, for definite. There's some like huge, twisted, cool-looking trees now. Some of the bits of the wood do seem a bit sparser though, so some people might like that, and some people might hate that because it's meant to be Mirkwood. It's meant to be dark and gloomy and that. But if there's less trees, it's even less gloomy than it was before and stuff like that. But it certainly looks interesting. So I'll probably do a separate video where I have a wander around Southern Mirkwood to show you guys the difference between live and beta. So, items and equipment. Ashes of Gorgoroth have been renamed to Ashes of Enchantment. So, if that doesn't give you the facts here, obviously we're going to continue to use this, but since we're not going to be in Mordor, it makes no sense for them to still be called Ashes of Gorgoroth. And we're not going to have Ashes of Mirkwood or anything like that. So, we're still using this as a currency. But it's now being applied to the new area as well. Chests in level 106 to 114 scaling instances now reward items when opened. So you can get some new bits of loot out of those. They have said as well, I'm not sure if it's in the patch notes, but there are other loot boxes, so we'll come back to that in case it's in the patch notes. Featured instance boxes will now drop tier 11 crafting materials instead of long lost coins. So those were the coins that you used to barter for your various legendary item bits and pieces, but they're kind of I don't say outdated, they still have their uses. Numenorians, Uruks and Spiders in the Gorgoroth resource instances now have a chance to drop coin. This is in addition to their chance to drop equipment. So you can get more loot from doing your dailies. Bit of money for paying for your repairs and stuff. Various housing decorations will now respect house owner decoration usage permissions. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? The various bingo housing guards, the treacherous hole, the snowball field, the fell goat housing guard and the high elf visitor. Let's read that again. So, respect house owner decoration uses permissions. So, I don't know whether they were not obeying the permissions before. I didn't know that was a thing. So, maybe people could interact with them even if you didn't say people could use them. I don't know. The item level 326 rings, originally acquired from the High Enchanter, have been renamed to Enchanters Turka, Enchanters Linta, and Enchanters Iswa, to differentiate them from the rings of the same name acquired from a Gorgoroth Steelbound loot box. Okay, don't know why we need to do that, but fine. If you take some time in the strongholds of the north to enjoy fishing, you will find that there are new species of fish in this land. So if you're a hobbyist fisher, you'll probably find something new there. I don't know what it is, I haven't tried, but with fishing you'll probably find that you will need to be up the higher levels of your fishing experience to do that, because they break down into various kind of bands where you need at least 50 levels of the fishing rank in order to find a certain type of fish. And I can't remember exactly which way round it goes, but you might be like 50 to catch a trout or something like that. The helmet of the armoury should once again display on your character's head instead of above your shoulder, so yeah, a bit of a graphics bug. Drop rates for Fragments of the Abyss in Tier 2 have increased and no longer compete with other gear drops. So if you're trying to farm the Abyss of Mordath instance, it's no longer a case of you're going to have Fragment or other loot. It's a case of they'll be separate, so you're going to get Fragment and piece of loot. Not necessarily for yourself, but you know, they'll be on separate loot tables, loot lists. Also in the Abyss of Mordath, Fragment of the Abyss crafting components now have a small chance to drop off of the first and third bosses in Tier 1. So, you know, it just allows you to get some loot on Tier 1 if you're not able to do or get into Tier 2 runs, which is always welcome. So scrolling down. Too far. Skills and traits. All races now have the passive skill Fiddle Use at level 5. So you should automatically learn that the moment your character hits level 5, which means that all characters will be able to play 3 instruments in total, because currently as it stands, everybody can play the lute, and then you can either play clarinet or the horn, depending on your class. I think those are the only 2 other ones. As starting ones. And obviously a minstrel can teach you how to play all of the other instruments, providing they've learnt the corresponding mentoring skill as well. So that means obviously there's going to be no mentoring skill for the fiddle, because everyone will learn it by default at level 5, which is nice. So it's nice to have one by default. There is now a 1 minute cooldown after switching to saved class trait configurations before you can swap again. So this sounds like someone's found some kind of sneaky way to use this as an exploit, and they're now stopping it. I don't know. That's what it sounds like, otherwise they wouldn't have done this. So I don't know whether the people were like starting a fight in one spec and quickly swapping to another spec between mobs or something. I don't know. The Smell the Roses effect cannot be applied whilst mounted. You must dismount, apply the effect, and remount it for it to work. So the Smell the Roses one is basically when you've got the speed boost upgrades for your account, for all horses on your account, to make them go as fast as the fastest mounts. You can turn on this Smell the Roses buff, which makes them go at their original speed. I don't know why you would, frankly, unless you're like trying to role play and stay at the same speed as other people with slower horses, maybe. But I always never have that on. Fixed an issue that required relogging to see passive traits properly applied. So that's a bit of a weird bug. Legendary items. You can now deconstruct all unlocked legendary items at a Relic Master by pressing the Deconstruct All button. So use with caution. It's nice to have a Deconstruct All. But if you're not careful, you're going to get rid of everything. Presumably, if it's unlocked but you've got it equipped, it doesn't count because you wouldn't normally see it in that list anyway. When applying XP runes that are part of a stack to a legendary item, you can now designate how much of the stack to apply to the legendary item. Oh my god, it's finally fucking here. So much like they added the option to reputation items, where you can I think it's Alt and right click to say how many of each item you want to use. So instead of having to get repetitive strain injury from clicking through like 500 or 1,000 items that give you 30 rep, you now get the same with legendary item experience. So thank God, because I don't know about you guys, but I have so many runes where they're just like really small crappy runes, maybe like 1,000 points or 2,000 points, and it's just too much hassle to manually click through them when, you know, like on first stage items you need like hundreds of thousands per rank and stuff. It's crazy. So I'm so happy they've done that, and I've got loads of low level IXP runes with small amounts of IXP that I can finally use and get out the bank, because otherwise, you know, I don't bother using anything that has less than 10k. Otherwise it just destroys my wrist. The system will not consume more than is needed to reach the cap, so it is going to be intelligent. You're not going to waste runes. Obviously you might want to just run a bit of basic math in your head that, you know, if you can only apply 50,000 IXP, you probably don't want to use the IXP rune that's got 1,000,000 IXP on there, otherwise you're wasting a bit of overhead on that one particular usage. But, you know, it's up to you really. I'm just glad they put that in there. Relic Masters will now refine a complete stack of relics if you click the Refine Stack button. So again, another quality of life thing. So if you have a bunch of, you know, like tier 1 trash relics that you've got somewhere, you've got loads of them, you don't have to refine them one at a time. You can just click Refine All and it refines all of that stack. Brilliant. Major quality of life changes for the IXP. To destroy an imbued legendary item, you must now confirm by entering the name of your item. Fair enough, makes sense, because once you've got your imbued one, that should last you for life now. So yeah, any extra securities to stop you from accidentally deleting it is welcome. I don't know anyone who has done that, but you know, it's better safe than sorry. You can no longer imbue legendary items while mounted. Frankly, I'm surprised you could anyway, because it normally would whinge about that kind of stuff. You can now unlock multiple imbued legacy tiers at once using Mithril. Okay, so you could presumably, instead of like clicking to unlock the next tier, you can click and then have a little slider saying how many tiers do you want and how much it's going to cost. Forge Masters can now identify all unidentified legendary items in your inventory at once. Good, another quality of life. The only thing I would say is that if you're a very poor person and at higher levels, it does cost quite a lot of money to identify those legendary items. So unless you're particularly looking for ones you can level to get particular legacy out of, they're not really worth identifying and deconstructing for the relics, in my opinion. At least unless you're going to put some IXP on it to get the levels up before you decon it. Relic Masters can now auto-combine relics in groups of 10 or 50. My god. It's like they've almost... I think they've probably put in every kind of improvement that people have wanted with legendary items. Maybe not with the legendary items themselves, but with just the quality of life, we know, with use of IXP, relics, the Relic Master, Forge Master, all these things are things that people have been asking for years. So I imagine people are going to be very happy about that. Class changes. Minstrel Call to EORF animation has been adjusted and polished. The Minstrel skill Call to EORF should no longer significantly delay the next queued skill, so no skill lag after you've used that. And it now blends while moving, so if you're using it on the move, and I don't know whether that means blending with your actual movement, so you're not just going to like stand still rather than walking while trying to do it, or whether they're talking about blending with the next follow-up skill. The Minstrel Coda of Melody animation was adjusted to smooth it out. Fine. Captain, you can now purchase a receipt for armament exchange for silver from any Captain trainer. You no longer need to trade in a crafted armament. This receipt can be used to barter for the Herald skill appearance of your choice from the Captain trainer. So again, a bit of quality of life there. Crafting. New crafting resources are available throughout Lascalon, Dow and Erebor. I don't know if that's meant to mean resource instance, because it says they all provide tier 11 Doomfold materials, so they're not new resources. The new region, ore and scholar nodes will drop the same Doomfold materials as we found in Mordor. Oh. No. Well, that's a bit weird. The new region, lumber nodes, will drop new Lascalon logs that will still be processed into Doomfold boards. I don't know why they're doing that, especially since in the last few years they've kind of been standardising the raw resources that they've been using. So, you know, like with the ores, everything is now some type of skarn that can be refined into bits and pieces. You know, they did away with the different types of tier 6 ores, tier 6 woods, and they just, you know, they kept Elix, they got rid of Malorn. They unified Khazad Copper, Khazad Gold, and Khazad Iron and Khazad Tin into just Khazad Skarn now. It seems a bit weird they're doing that. I mean, I could understand if they added a new tier, we'd have new resources, but I don't know why they need to complicate matters like this. Unless it gives more XP than the Mordor ones did if you're refining them, in which case I might not complain because it helped me level the crafting. But otherwise I don't see why they need to add the complexity. The crafting quartermaster in the Strongholds of the North has new helm, necklace, pocket and essence recipes available. So it'd be interesting to see how they stack up against Mordor gear. The Doomfold Fiddle woodworker recipes are now available from the Conquest of Gorgoroth crafting quartermaster. So I don't know whether that will be the highest tier. I don't know if that's... I presume they probably mean Doomfold tier fiddle woodworker recipes rather than necessarily something that's Mordor specific. So that'll probably be your best in-slot fiddle if you're going to use a fiddle as a weapon. So I'm certainly going to demonstrate the fiddle sounds once I get my minstrel over there on the test servers. Avatars. The dwarves have had new head shapes and face details available for preview. Updated hairstyles are not yet ready. So I might hold off on showing you guys the differences there until the hairstyles are also in. And I think also by the sounds of what people have been saying, there have been some tweaks to the Elven Man character updates. So just some little tweaks that people have been asking for in terms of like coloration of the eyes and stuff. But nothing groundbreaking. So only dwarves will be coming in this. So we still have hobbits, sadly, being left till a bit later. So that maybe they're going to be in the following update, maybe the summer or autumn updates. And Bjornings, since they were a newer class anyway and kind of designed from scratch, their appearances are not as old school as the ones that have been in the game since launch. So Bjornings will end up being done last. Client and UI. The character selection and character generation screens have received a UI update, and this does look really cool. So I might even dedicate a whole video just to poking around in the login screen now, because it does look very nice. There's some like wonderful animated effects on all the buttons. It looks a lot sleeker, a lot more modern, whereas like the old UI, it looked very big and clunky, and this is a lot more modern and nicer. The character select backgrounds for men, elves and dwarves have been updated. So again, the backgrounds to your character select screens are now much more elaborate. I don't know if they're going to be sneaking some more of these in before this comes out, because as it stands, the race of man stands in the fields now before Minas Tirith. This is regardless of your background. I think it's regardless of background. I might be wrong, because I think most of my men, no, not all of my men are from Gondor, but I think they're always in front of Minas Tirith anyway. The elves have I don't know what it is. It's like an interior location. The High Elf one is kind of like what it was before, but it's kind of like a slightly more zoomed out angle, so you can see more of it. The dwarves are inside Erebor. Bjornings are still at their hut, same graphics as before. Hobbits are still in the Shire, same graphics as before. So Miscellaneous, one of those bits is only preview only. Tasks from Rohan through to level cap content now require a turn-in at a 65 cap collection box. 65 2-cap collection box. These collection boxes can be found in housing areas and at all task boards from Rohan through to the current cap content. Okay. I'm not sure why they've done it like this. I mean, I assume the case is for those players that might accept a load of tasks from a task board, go out, do their normal quests, and whenever they realise they've completed or got enough things for a task hand in, they'll hand it in at the next box they see. But maybe that box might be in a new region, and they have to travel back to the old town in order to hand those in. But then why why does it have to be a 65 to cap box? Why couldn't they have done this, allow you to hand it in at any task box? I don't know. Whether this is maybe the case of just the after level 65, all the task boards were their own hand-in points, whereas the ones pre-65, you normally accept it from a task board but then hand it in at a different NPC. I don't know. Which is a bit strange. I don't think they've changed the task boards in the housing instances. I think they still do break down into several different level bands post level 65. Otherwise, that's going to be a very long list of tasks. Eton Moors, the player character exit from the Delving of Thrall can now be used by High Elf characters. Okay, well, if that was a strange bug that's been in there since High Elves have been out, that's about time they fix that then. The LOTRO store now allows up to 100 Epic Battles promotion points to be obtained via promotion points plus 10s. I don't know what the limit was before that, or if they even allowed you to do that beforehand, but you can now buy 10 promotion points in a bundle. I'm not sure what the exact cost is, and presumably you can buy up to 100. I don't know whether it's up to 100, and then once you're past 100 you can't buy any more, or you can just have up to 100 bought through the store, up to whatever the max is. I might have to have a little play around with that on the beta servers. But that pretty much brings the patch notes to a close for this time. There will be probably several different updates coming out on the Bullroarer server before this hits the live servers. I would imagine it will probably hit live possibly late March, early April. My guess is that it would probably launch whenever they deploy the anniversary festival update. And the anniversary festival would be around, well, the anniversary is like around the 20th of April, so the anniversary would probably start maybe second or third week in April, possibly earlier. So my guess is that the expansion, not the expansion, the new region will launch probably early April, would be my guess. But yeah, the Bullroarer servers are open now. They seem to be open through the week as well. Sometimes only open at the weekends, but it's Monday now and it's still upline. So if you guys want to dabble in there, if you just Google the LOTRO forums, then you'll end up on this massive long forum list here, and you need to scroll all the way down until you get to the section called servers, and then you have each server represented, but down the bottom you have the Bullroarer public test server, and if you go on that you get the test servers, all these threads, so you can read what other people are saying about the new things they're testing, things they think need changing, whatever. It can be quite an interesting read sometimes, although you might get the usual whinge threads and stuff. But if you want the client launcher, you need to go on this one at the top here. So it's a sticky thread, Bullroarer client installer. So if you click on that, and at the top you're going to have a PC download link, a Mac download link. You just have to download that, put it on your PC, follow the installation instructions. It might whinge that you've already got LOTRO installed because it seems to detect the live client. Just ignore that, carry on, and just make sure you install it to a different folder to live, which it will do by default anyway. And then you just have to wait several hours for it to download with its slow patch server. But then once it gets in, you just use your normal username and password. The only server you'll be able to log in through the beta client will be Bullroarer. So if that's down, that's what you can do with it. But it will quietly patch itself, same as it will do for the normal live launcher. But yeah, once you're in there, you can copy over your characters from live to the beta server. So to do that, you need to log into the live client, and once you get to the point where you're about to select a server and you've got the play button, you instead want to click the transfer button, and then just choose to copy certain characters from whatever server you play on across to the Bullroarer server. It is completely free. It will take a couple of minutes. It will probably lock your account for a couple of minutes while they get copied across, but then you'll find those characters wherever you last logged them in on live, ready to go on Bullroarer. But if you've never been on Bullroarer before, If we go back, there's lots of useful information you should read at the top here for what you should be doing, what you can do. Particularly go read the Isengard Tavern FAQ, because you can go basically interact with loads of NPCs that will give you like free LOTRO points, only for the Bullroarer server, don't get excited. Free Mithril coins, free travels, virtue packages and whatever, just so you can actually get around and test on the server basically. But that's it for now then. So as I said, I will be getting around to doing some exploration of the new region, just having a little wander around the landscape, see what there is to see what looks pretty cool. I'm not going to be spoiling any story related stuff beyond people we might bump into along the way. And then also covering the fiddle, covering some of the UI changes, how the Southern Mirkwood looks. So stay tuned for those, and I hope you enjoyed this. But until next time, see you guys later.